Hey everybody, welcome to Aniki, the podcast about anime with one brother. I'm Ben, and John's not here. John is traveling this week, and we didn't want to leave you with a whole month of not listening to our nonsensical opinions on something. So we decided we'd dig into the deep dark archives and read to you a blog post from 2011. As some of you might know, long before Aniki, I'd occasionally write my thoughts on media I consumed on a blog. One of these posts was about a time I played an Eromahjong game by accident called Fullani. Probably the best and worst things I've ever written. So presented here is a dramatic retelling of the time I wanted to play a new mahjong game and found more than I was bargaining for. You don't need a full understanding of mahjong to keep listening, only a really weird sense of humor. Keep in mind that I will be describing an eroge, so the content is not suitable for children at all, or the workplace, or probably yourself. So I contend that nothing good ever comes from a story that begins with the words, "So this one time, I was on hung fire." And nothing proves this more than the tale I'm about to tell you about the game Fullani. Be mindful that this post is not only not safe for work, but probably not safe for you either. So this one time, I was on hung fire. I had made this egregious mistake earlier this week while searching the vast and wondrous internet for mahjong games that I'd never seen before. I had already beaten a fairly high-ranking guy in Tenno, and the day before had beaten a ridiculously hard AI on my iPhone mahjong app. And so, naively feeling confident, I decided to hunt for a more worthy challenge. Clearly, as you can tell by the tone of this post, my hubris would get the best of me in the end. As such, I had exhausted the Google's normal searches, and had even looked through several nefarious downloading sites, when I remembered that a friend of mine, who likes Japanese things quite a bit, had used Hongfire in the past. Golly, I said, I bet there might be a game or two on there. Thus, I traveled to the old HF and searched for mahjong, which led to several single posts, because I don't know how thread view works in these searches, which called me to download a game called Fullani. And being the aforementioned confidence guru of the moment, I threw caution to the wind and just downloaded it sight unseen, and went about my business waiting for the 1.6 gigabyte monstrosity to finish. Hours later, hooray for low-seeding torrents, around midnight, I remembered my little game and set about installing it in a virtual machine. At this point, I should have sensed that something was off. It wasn't the fact that the installer was all in Japanese, a language that I have a kindergartner's listening and a preschooler's reading comprehension in. No, that was to be expected. It was the splash screen behind the ever-growing progress bar that was covered in a bunch of anime girls. Young, nubile anime girls. Although nubile might be too generous of a word. Now I know what you're thinking. Ben, you fool! Don't you know that this must be one of those weird mahjong sex games? But for a moment, this thought crossed my mind. But understand, I had played a mahjong game before, which had some women of the voluptuous variety in it. And the worst that happened was that when you won, you got money to buy them bikinis. Also, this is a Japanese game, and this is a trend. Surely, said I, surely there would be no reason to have a game in which you play mahjong, a game similar to rummy played with tiles and used for gambling, to also be an eroge, or an erotic game. And as those words fell past my lips, I heard the universe chuckle to itself. Undeterred by this, I set about playing Fullani. The screen darkened, and suddenly I was privy to a scene of a young man hunched over his computer playing an RPG in the dark. The scene was fully animated. Whoa, an animated game. That's pretty cool for a mahjong game, I said, now understanding the large file size. And it was animated, just like a normal episode of an anime would be. While contemplating if perhaps other games out there had this level of dedication of their development staff, there was a sudden knock at the door in the game. Our unnamed protagonist leaves his dungeon and goes to answer it. Flinging the door open, lo! His unseen sister's tsundere friend has come to seek female company for the evening. Or something to that effect. Being in Japanese, I started filling in the bits of the dialogue I didn't understand with my own words, trying to make sense of the situation. This point becomes useful later on, as I will interpret any dialogue in the way my brain did. As the boy stands there, like a moron, with a girl I suppose he has a crush on in the doorway, telling her, no, his sister isn't here and she's off buying tiger meat, supposedly. A storm begins to brew. Oh, listeners, the maelstrom is sudden and catches our couple off guard. A cyclone evolves above the complex, and a sharp clap of thunder startles the young maiden, thrusting her into the unwilling arms of our boy hero. Of course, being tsundere, she punches him for his obvious use of weather control to make her do such a thing. But before he has a chance to tell her where to get off, a bolt of lightning strikes the building, and lacking a UPS surge protector, opens a portal in the computer, sucking our characters screaming into the abyss. Cue lighthearted opening credits. At this point, I'm a bit bewildered. Questions start running through my head. Why would lightning cause that to happen? Where was that guy's sister? How come this opening has the princess-looking chick and the tsundere girl fighting over the guy? Where did that cat girl come from? Why is this song so generic and trite? Why does this opener seem to be focusing on the tsundere girl? Things like that. But mostly I was thinking, cool, if this game has an opener, then I guess I'm in for a long and difficult mahjong game. Alright, this game was about mahjong, wasn't it? However, my lovelies, my thoughts were interrupted by the game starting back up again. Our hero had been dumped into the middle of a forest, dressed in the clothes of his RPG character. What a twist! And he had been pulled into the world of dragons, arcana, of knights and heroes. What shall he make of this? Let us listen to his introspective dialogue. Where am I? Man, these clothes are kind of weird. And there seems to be a castle over there. At this point, his investigation into his whereabouts and circumstances seems to come to an abrupt end. As far as I was able to tell, not once in the rest of Fullani does he ever question this again. We have come to the literal end of the amount of care that this man has to give. But fear not. We need not dwell on his lack of self-awareness because suddenly, a Batgirl! A purple-haired lolly Batgirl saunters up to our hero as he continues to scratch his head and sit on the grass. She is sporting a purple skirt and a top not unlike that one Batgirl from Persona, whose name escapes me, consisting of a leather strapless bra. Hello, she smiles cheerfully. I'm or something. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I'm name redacted. You're annoying. Huff puff. Well, fine then. I didn't want to talk to you anyway, but since I'm here, I must tell you that in this land, when a boy and girl meet like this, they must kung fu fight. She smiles again at his bemusement. With mahjong. And thus, the first game of mahjong begins. Hooray! Finally, I cracked my knuckles and prepared for a challenge. The game proceeded to tell me all the rules and the familiar, undecipherable moon runes known as kanji I've grown to know and love. But despite not being able to read, I knew the rules well enough for mahjong, so I skipped to the playing bit. The playing field was a weird, unknown-to-be variation of Japanese mahjong, with only 2 players. Myself, playing the dashing young knucklehead, and the bubbly Draculina. Every few draws, she would make some sort of squeaky noise that, as I have learned from unwanted experience, the typical Japanese nerd finds adorable. After only a couple of draws, I already had a ready hand and declared Richi, meant I was ready for the winning tile, causing Miss Batflaps to pout. Soon she coughed up the tile I wanted, and I called Ron, meaning I win. And that was when I realized my terrible, terrible mistake. Her bra popped off. For a few moments, I sat there blinking, long enough for the hands to reset for the next round, as I had not yet depleted all of her points. Had that been... was that... wait, is this, And that's when it dawned on me. I had an eroge and didn't know it. Oh no. I hung my head. I have one of those games that my friend likes a little too much. I should probably stop playing. Wait! Cried a voice in my head. Maybe this is just like strip poker. You win, and she removes clothing. Take all her points, move on to the next opponent, leaving her presumably naked by the side of the road with a valuable lesson learned. I replied. You may be right. So, against better judgment, I continued. Her bra had been replaced, and all was well once more. I may have overreacted. Maybe it was just a little naughty to keep the nerds playing. And soon I completed another hand, hitting the Draculina with an 18,000 point Hanuman, draining the rest of her stock. The minigame ended. Back to the anime. She pouted a bit about losing and suggested that the guy go to the castle. A reasonable assumption, I thought. Then the scene cut again. This cut was such that you could tell it was one of those scenes that depends on the outcome of a fight or a minigame. Uh-oh, was my only thought as the Batgirl took a hold of the guy's hand, flying him and herself into the branches of a nearby tree. Within moments, she had mounted him and said something I didn't understand. I can only assume that she said something to the effect of, You have bested me in the honorable game of sparrow tiles with your Haneman hand. You must seed my womb! And that's just what he did. In a tree. When he had placated her, he got down from yonder branches and began towards the castle. The winged wench, who I guess sleeps with every man she meets because she sucks at mahjong, says something snarky about his sword and the scene ends. We never see her again. Here's where I considered stopping Fullani. I thought, ugh, is this going to be the whole game? Then I took the plunge. Whatever. In for a penny, in for a pound. Let's do this. Our hero enters the castle and takes a look around at the abundance of not people present. A curious situation for a castle to be in, to say the least. He starts the old brain turning over, but before he has a chance to reclaim his cognitive functions from his grievously used nether regions, he hears a cry for help. Bounding up the stairs, he finds a young princess, who looks a lot like Tsundere Girl, being accosted by a dragon or lizard man or something. Regardless, she's holding him off with her arms despite his biceps being larger than her head. But she requires assistance. After insulting her for bothering him, Smug Boy draws his sword and in one arching blow sends the fiend screaming down the middle of the spiraling staircase. Because he can do that now. The princess, showing her appreciation for the saving bit and for the insult, flees up the stairs and out of sight. The hero again is confused, but I have a feeling that this time he was really confused as to why she didn't want to play mahjong so he could bone her. I certainly was. At any rate, he gives chase but loses sight of her. Stopping to catch his breath on a landing, he hears a door open. A lady, dressed like a green nun, appears from the portal, wondering who he is. He explains that he was looking for the princess because he had just saved her and stuff. She says that she probably returned to her room, but before he goes, would he mind staying a bit and playing some mahjong? Gulping, and clearly not wanting to upset the greater deities of this realm, or more likely wanting someone with less bosom than the one being offered, he tries to decline, but this attempt fails. The minigame begins. This time the game explains that you can buy super duper tiles with the points that you collect. Using the power-ups, you can make winning, or simply not losing, a lot easier. I thought that was kind of novel, but I had no interest in cheating, so I skipped to the playing part. The nun whimpers and mutters a lot, but does little else. Soon I already have a winning hand and I cringe thinking what terrible thing might happen when I win. Will her bloomers suddenly explode? Will 1,000 maws descend from heaven, rending her garments so that I can sneak a peek? Turns out, no, nothing happens. I breathe a sigh of relief. The next hand I Hanuman her too, I swear on accident, and take her precious points. The minigame ends and we're back at the stairwell. The nun looks sad, but our hero, pure of mind, decides it's best to continue up the stairs. No sooner does his foot touch the first step than he hears those terrible words. Before you go, could you look at this? And behold, she's pulled up her long dress for easy access. Ugh, I cry, throwing up my hands. How does this even make sense? But remember, our boy has a pure heart about this whole nun plowing thing, so he does the only honorable thing he could do. He just gives her cunnilingus. That completed, he moves up the stairs to a closet where he hears the muffled cries of a princess in distress. He bursts his way in and witnesses said princess being tied up by a cat girl. How dare you, he cries and lunges for her. Then mahjong! Events here are cloudy. Partly because I'd done this song and dance twice before, but mostly because the woman kept making nyan-nyan noises like Digico from DigiCarrot, which was really unnerving. I quickly defeated her and untied the princess who ran away again. She seemed like a very confused person to me. As soon as she left, the Catwoman moved between Mr. Cool Pants and the door, shutting it. You can imagine what happened next. I don't know. I started to take this interlude to start tweeting this ridiculousness to the world. I came back to the game when the hero had found the princess caught and bound again by a young, very young sorceress. This wizard had an amusing item with her, a staff with the bust of a chicken on one end of it, whom, it seems, had a bone to pick with the princess and made fun of her by growing boobs. So Hero Man steps in and a mahjong fight ensues. This time I decided to get one of those super duper tiles, just to see what they did. I purchased the most expensive one and started the game. Turns out it gives you a 4-wind Yakuman starting hand with an incomplete pair, so within 5 turns I had drained her of all her points, roughly 20 seconds. The game over, the boy untied the princess who fled. Next time I find her, I will give her a stern talking to about manners, I said to myself. The young wizard, though, too young for the obvious choice of mahjong reward in this game, decided instead, for the sake of modesty, to just sit herself down on a pillow, spread eagle, and to pleasure herself to ecstasy through her undergarments. For the hero's benefit, of course. And having been given such a stunning and emotional show, one that caused the performer to pass out from exhaustion, our man did the only thing a gentleman in his situation would do. He turned and walked out of the room without a word. Up the stairs he bounded, up to the very top of the castle. Flinging open the doors to what could only be the throne room, he stopped cold in his tracks. The princess, and the nun from before, were being held by what seemed to be some sort of magical force to the ground in humbling and undignified positions. Drawing his sword once more, the dashing hero sped into the room and demanded an explanation from whoever was doing this. A dark figure rose from the throne/couch? Stepping into the light, she is revealed as an evil enchantress. She explains her dark and ominous plan to the boy. I was planning on taking over this castle, and this whole kingdom, you see. I have moseyed into an unguarded fortress, sent my 3 minions to try and kill the princess, but now I see they were failures, and I shall rectify this. Not if I stop you, cries our courageous lion of a youth, leveling his sword at her face. Oh no, she retorts. If you want to beat me, you'll have to do so with mahjong. And so, throwing any amount of sense he had to the 4 winds, he engages her in a pitched battle, which I won for him in 2 hands. I should point out that this witch would literally spend 10 seconds saying the word Richi in the most sultry manner she could muster. Having bested her, she was defeated. Oh wait, no, that didn't happen. Instead, she turned our hero through mind control into an ottoman and sat on him, and not in a sexy way. But realizing that she was breaking the great traditions of the land, she decided to pleasure him with her mouth instead, on the throne couch. Then she moved on, throwing her whole self into the act. But wait, our boy decides no, he will not stand for this diminishment of his station, and puts her on the bottom, having his way with her. The witch, pleasured beyond the measure of reality, sinks back on the now sloppy wet couch, and decides that getting boned is a much better fate than being ruler. Meanwhile, the princess, freed from her bonds, walks up to the guy, and without a word of explanation, slaps him. And then runs away. I can only assume that she was mad about the couch getting ruined. I say that because that's it. The credits roll. As I sat there watching the credits, I realized that this had possibly been one of the worst wastes of time I have ever taken part in. First, the tsundere girl, despite being the main character in the credits, is never seen again. Could she be the princess? I guess that's possible, but we don't know because she kept running away. Second, the logic in this magical kingdom is screwed up 12 ways to Sunday. Mahjong ends with someone getting money, not being offered to deflower young maidens in the prime of their youth. If that were the case, I would have no problems getting more real-life players in town. Third, that was the worst coup in the history of ever. I was going to use my arcane magics and demonic powers to take over your kingdom, but since you bested me at Mahjong, I'd rather suck your dick is not proper military strategy. Finally, the developers completely wasted their time. They built a Mahjong AI, calculators, special tiles, and power-ups, none being a simple task, for a total of 5 battles. Why? I can't fathom it. So did I learn anything from Fullani? Yes. I have learned 2 very important lessons from this game. One is that eroge are stupid and people that play them are clearly insane. But more importantly, never, ever download anything from Hungfire. So that was my one-time playthrough of Fullani. Having 8 years of retrospection, I've come to believe that I somehow went through only one of the bad ends, but my lack of full comprehension of what was going on can't confirm that. Are there more paths for a hero to take and unlock the mysteries of the tsundere princess? All I know is I'll never know, so that's that. The link to the original blog post is in the show notes. Next time is Rosen Maiden with an actual brother to be with me. So I will see you then.